Hey everyone, I've been wanting to get back to the discussion for a little bit about my visionary state stuff. Like the last video I did talking about it was I guess the crazy making experience. I was explaining how the next section of my story is kind of how it turns into a crazy making experience with the narrative about Bill Lieb and all that stuff. And now it's kind of confusing to deal with, but I feel like I'm being given these visionary state experiences in a way that I can relate to more than anything. So I'm like, it's gonna make more sense to me than anyone else, because um, so what we're dealing with is a different way of communicating and learning. Basically, going into visionary state, as I've mentioned, is like really ancient and stuff, and so and then the question is whether this does happen or not. So this is a lesson in discernment on many levels, where first of all, recognizing that we're going into visionary state at all. It's really easy to just write that off as, oh, it was just your imagination. Well, it's not that simple, and that's why I'm taking my time to explain it. Like the next section of my story, where it seems like it's making me look really crazy and stuff. Well, I feel like this was the process of waking me up to it, and making me aware that it's happening. But at the same time, it's also making me aware that information can be delivered in truth, and it can be misinformation just the same. So even if you're having a supernatural experience and it's really exciting and exotic and everything, you're still dealing with one mind communicating to the other. And so that's what I want to talk about more. That I understand, okay, this all makes me look crazy, and I think that's what it was meant to do. But what I really want people to consider from here on out is that I'm talking about a real thing. So we need to clarify that this is a real thing. And when I have people coming at me with all this, oh, well, you need to seek professional help, and oh, well, you're just delusional, it's just your imagination, all these type of things, it's not helping one bit, and it really is just telling me you're not listening, or you're not communicating. Because I think a good example would be the movie 12 Monkeys, if you've ever seen that movie with Bruce Willis in it, where he time travels to the past to save the world and ends up in an insane asylum, right? He ends up in an institution, and the counselor there wants to convince him that it's all his imagination. There's no such thing as time travel, right? So he knows there's time travel. He got sent back in time and everything else. But this lady, what she's trying to convince him is what she knows from her books. This is what she was trained to believe. So she has no idea that time travel is real, because in her reality it's not, or in her time maybe it's not, but down the line in the future it is, right? So it's possible somewhere. And so this is one of those things where not only is it possible, but it's been going on all along. Like I keep saying, that's kind of where a lot of our biblical stuff comes from, is people going into visionary state and talking to otherworldly beings. So really, what it comes down to, it's a matter of sharing our truth from what we have to share it with, right? So, like, for example, as I'm learning something new, okay, I've been doing martial arts for many years. That's how I've been learning about the process of learning and how different people learn and stuff. And so when I got my black belt and I was helping teaching, I mean, ultimately what I'm teaching is what I understand. So from what I've been shown all these years, so what the instructors show me, and I go to teach it to the student, they might get sort of a watered down version of it because I'm not as good as the instructor, or it really depends on my capacity, all these different things. So some of my precepts on sharing our truth is that truth is truth no matter where you find it. So that's kind of just, it is what it is. You can't change it. But in sharing our truth, it's a matter of discernment, my ability to recognize it, first of all, and then let alone be able to articulate it, right? And so I'm dealing with something that's kind of exotic. It's not something that we get taught in general science, right? It's not conventional to be taught about going to visionary state, and so it's like a big there's a lot of big questions here, right? That a lot of people have around the world. And so, you know, I grew up always being interested in otherworldly things, you know. I think I've been asking a lot of questions, and that's where these are coming to be answered, you know. So, like, it's kind of funny, you know, all these years I've been reading these books and thinking, I wish I could have some cool psychic experience, and then I come to find out that it's been happening all along. And so truth is truth no matter where you find it. Now, and just for the sake of sharing this precept, no one has all the answers and no one's always right. So, you know, you might be a truthful person, but sometimes you just make mistakes. And some people are deliberately deceptive, and that's kind of what is going on with religion, right? Is when we talk about spiritual knowledge, it's not the same thing as like scientific knowledge, where like scientific knowledge that we have on earth would be anything that we can perceive. So, you know, as scientists, we're doing our best to observe our environment and understand it, and the more we understand science, the more we do for ourselves in the way of survival, right? So everything we have around us is a scientific invention that most of it is to support our survival, right? So so when it comes to scientific knowledge, what we're sharing is only what we know really on Earth. So Earth has a lot of knowledge. I mean, I gotta say, we got to give ourselves credit. I think we've learned a lot in the way of science, but we're moving on to higher things like spirit nature. Spirit nature is a little more difficult to study because of our approach to the studying of it, right? So we can't study spirit nature exactly the same way we study physical nature. See? So so we're going on to bigger things. Like, so when we're talking about me going into visionary state, you know, who am I talking to on the other side? And now, I guess what I was coming back to is, are there extraterrestrials? So people are seeing things in the skies that aren't man-made, and then other people feel that they've been contacted, like my good friend Rosie. So something I've discovered about Rosie when she died is it seemed like nobody really wanted anything to do with her, because they all thought she was just, you know, crazy, like she had dementia, or maybe she took too much acid. And so you know, they just thought she just had a lot of big lies that she believed, like the alien stuff. But before she died, her daughter came over and told us about the time that her and her husband were driving to Colorado. So they're going from Montana to Colorado through Wyoming. So they're on I-25. So both people and their entire vehicle got beamed up and set down in South Dakota, just on time to go down the highway past the Devil's Tower. So it probably made her realize her mom's not lying. There are aliens. So, you know, for them to be picked up and moved, you know, that's a big deal. I mean, I was really glad she came and told us that, because that tells me, you know, that was a breakthrough for that daughter, you know, probably, you know, one of the people that thought her mom was full of shit. Well, so that's a big question, is like, okay, so when we step back and look at the universe is a living system, okay? So this is a whole big topic. I don't want to go too far in this video, but if the universe is a living system, like you are, there are three major components that we have. Like, here would be the seat of our soul and the pineal gland. It ties in with the mind and the awareness and stuff. And the heart, that's the center for the spirit. That ties in with intuition and feeling. Okay, and then at the center of your body. So we kind of got three major centers. So like the universe is like that too. So it may also have the consciousness, like a soul, you know. So that might be what we call God, is the universe's soul. And then the second thing that we're talking about is the spirit. So the universe has spirit all through it. We call it the Holy Spirit, or the quantum energetic field. And so when the conscious presence interacts with the energetic field, then we bring about vibration. So that's the Holy Trinity in that way. So there might be some truth in that. So that's where we come back to truth is truth, no matter where we find it. So So religion seems like a lot of hocus pocus, and it's silly. That's why we've got people that are just science only. There's no such thing as God. Um, but it's like a big puzzle, you know. So we're getting information that's being distributed, and we're like, okay, where's this coming from? So the universe is a living system, and actually top scientists are looking at the possibility that the universe works like a neural network. It's kind of like a big brain, right? So that's how we can know stuff that it's seemingly unknowable, at least on the physical level. So like on the physical level, we go out and we gather scientific information, we put it in our brains here. But when it comes to stuff like beyond our vision, is there any such thing as God? That's something you know in your heart. So that's a spiritual thing. And so it's a different way of understanding. So it's one thing to understand clearly this is a piece of knowledge, but to have a spiritual knowledge, it's like an intuition, it's a feeling. So imagine like, so you had to reach in this bag and guess what's in there. You can use your feelers to guess what it is, right? So intuition and feelings a little bit like that, kind of reaching into a place where you can't see and trying to guess what's on the other side. And this is kind of what I have to do with the visionary status. I have to guess who's on the other side and why they're doing this, right? So so that's the lesson in discernment. Have I been going into the visionary state, and what are they telling me? Okay. And so the way you know truth in an intuitive way is you know it in your heart. It just seems to ring true or not. And so you got to understand some things just sound good, right? So we think about the way the whole living universe works, and how we want to learn to understand it. Well, so one way we learn is through the eyes. Scientifically, we're talking about putting knowledge in our head. Now the other way of learning is, I call it learning inside out. So learning scientifically is like learning outside in. Learning intuitively is like learning inside out. That's where you get intuition. And this is probably where a lot of our good questions come from that turn into science, right? So where do questions come from anyway? So we get ideas that have never been had before, and you go out and do something no one's ever done before. Where does that come from? So that's where, so one way we could be learning stuff we shouldn't be able to know. Like, why do we even know there might be a higher reality? Why do we even know that, right? Well, if you think about it, like from here down in the animal kingdom, there's all kinds of different levels of consciousness going on, from the single cell life form to like reptiles to mammals, and then human beings seem to be the king of the world. Well, just think, so from here to God, or what we call God, the universal conscious, there could be all kinds of different forms of life forms and conscious presences as well that we're not aware of quite yet. And so that's what we're talking about with extraterrestrials, beings of higher order. Whoever's communicating in these visions are beings that are in a place where they can see more than we can. So imagine, people are so happy to meet an ancient man of spiritual knowledge, right? Oh, wow, this guy's 100 years old. He knows so much. Well, these extraterrestrial beings and stuff, much older than we are, and from much older civilizations, why wouldn't you want to learn from them? And so, what I'm being made aware of is a different way of learning, So if you can, it is said that if the spirit world can contact you, they most certainly will, right? They love it if they can find someone who can hear them or comprehend them. And I think my spirit guides have a good sense of humor. So I think when I share the rest of my story, you're going to see where they kind of I feel like they kind of played a little joke on me, It really embarrassed me and stuff. But then in the long run, I was kind of seeing how they're telling me, like, okay, now when you go in a visionary state, yes, you can see glimpses of the future. Yes, you can know things that are remote to you. But at the same time, we could also run a line of shit on you. And so that's when we look at, what's going on with the big religious wars and stuff. A lot of these people are obsessing over prophecies from a book that they like to read, right? So there's no telling where this information is coming from or why they're saying it, So a lot of people say, could it be Satan, right? It could be Satan. So, but there's all kinds of beings, just like there's all kinds of people. Like most of the time, people are pretty good, right? So we had the idea that God is good. So the universal conscious presence is probably a good guy. Usually wants the best, But in the realm of beings, from this end to that, and you got everything from good to bad. For some reason, we got a lot of rotten apples out here, right? So it seems like most people are good, but so so you experience that here on Earth. That you meet people that take you by surprise. You're just used to dealing with good people, but once you get screwed over, you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So yeah, in the spirit world, when we're dealing with beings of on a higher level. So that's something I have to take into consideration as I move forward with this. Is I sense that my guides, I haven't been bothered by them in a while. It seems to tie in with what Rosie's talking about, that there are, so this is, and I don't really like to believe in like bullshit, right? So that's what I'm gonna do. I feel like I need to do a separate video just about what I believe, because like I've gone to the point where I was like totally atheist, just like, religion is bullcrap. They're just in there taking people's money, and just, I don't know. It's just like, people like stories, right? People like stories. That's all it is. But now you're starting to understand, where this is all coming from, why we have religion and stuff. So it's really been there for a good reason. It just becomes distorted by people that misuse things, see? Because the idea of like getting together, singing some songs, having somebody, give a good lecture is not a bad idea. Making friends, having a potluck, all the different things that churches do, are not a bad idea, bringing your energy together. So like, so I've never been a big fan of religion, but I'm learning to appreciate what's being taught through religion, what it's for, really. And there's still some people out here that I think they're doing the real thing. Maybe there's real Christian, real Buddhist, whatever their flavor is. So I don't really have a religion. I just figure, truth is truth no matter where you find it. And that it's up to us to be able to discern that truth and be able to learn it when we can. So as I share my stories and stuff, it's just like, this is what I've experienced as far as being introduced to the visionary state. I think the visionary state is a very important thing as far as a learning tool, and again, it could be a part of human history. But whether you're going to a visionary state, however you communicate, like Rosie was saying when she was contacted by her extraterrestrials, ever since then it's just been telepathic, so you don't have to go into visionary state or dreams all the time. Sometimes it's just telepathic. So anyways, it's just another way of learning. And so to be able to learn like that, you have to be open-minded. And that's why I think, I get to go to visionary state and I get to experience these things because I was open-minded enough and I had the capacity to comprehend it eventually and make it useful to me. So I think anybody else, like you hand them a book about algebra or trigonometry or any of that, they're just like, just nothing to me. But if you're a math nerd, so this is something that I can understand and put to use. So this might not be a good subject for everybody. So as far as the JodyVision, if I try to put that label on anything that has to do with this subject, so you can skip it if you want to, if you don't like hearing about the supernatural or the visionary state because you think it's just my imagination and I'm just crazy, this isn't a good conversation for you. But if you're somebody that knows me or you like this conversation, I really think that the visionary state is an important thing, and I want to reiterate that reiterate however you say that. It's a real thing, okay? It's just not a popular thing. So there's lots of people out there that are sharing channeled information, and some of them are real and some of them ain't real, right? So that's the problem. There's a lot of charlatans. It's easy to lie and say that you're psychic and use little head tricks and stuff, but there are certain people that I've come across that I really think they are communicating. You can just feel it in your heart, it's spiritual truth, That's how we discern spiritual truth. It just seems to ring true. It just seems to make sense, that type of thing, I don't know. So what's going on in the world, I love to break down kind of like how we're going through stages of development to where, the universe has so many galaxies. The galaxies have so many planets that have life on them, and there's just certain stages they need to go through. And so Earth is actually a unique planet according to what I know about this. And most planets have, that have life on them, like Earth. They have plants and animals. They kind of go through the stages of, and then they have a human being type of animal on them. So like this is like Earth is kind of common in that way, but one of the things that we might find surprising is that there's sort of a cross-pollination. So like the some of the things that like ancient aliens, there might be some truth to that. Anyways, like, so what's going on is we're kind of like communicating with beings on another level that want to help us and make us aware of things, because it all ties in. So I want to do more videos explaining what I understand about universal nature and all this good stuff. But at the same time, I also have my own personal story about going to visionary state and how I've discovered going to visionary state. So I kind of want to skip back and forth, so break it up a little bit, because sometimes I get emotional about it. But I'd love to continue sharing how I became aware of visionary state, and how I feel about some of the things that have happened and some of the people I've come in contact. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the stories, if I could get them out, and I will talk to you soon.